fiber is the same. Most people believe it to be just a tool to regulate the bowel movements, but they do not know that different types of fiber could help improve your blood sugar regulation, lower blood cholesterol levels, and support good health and overall immune system function. However, you cannot benefit from all of these amazing properties of fiber if you consume the same 1 or 2 fiber-rich foods on rotation. This is why today we're discussing the different types of fiber and how each quality of fiber contributes in a different way to improving your metabolic health. All of the resources that I'm using for today's video are linked down in the description box below if you want to check out something for yourself. Before we go into the different fiber types, we're going to do just a quick review over the available overwhelming amount of evidence that we have on fiber and improvements in metabolic health. Larger bodies of research, such as systematic reviews and meta-analyses, have consistently shown us for decades that people who consume adequate amounts of fiber are usually suffering from less metabolic disease compared to people who eat negligible amounts of fiber. For instance, this research paper, which included data from dozens of studies and hundreds of thousands of participants, concluded that fiber intake is correlated with a decreased incidence for numerous metabolic conditions and an overall decrease in all-cause mortality. The incidence and also the mortality from various heart conditions such as cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, stroke, were all much lower in the people that were consuming the higher amounts of fiber. When looking at specific subgroups, such as studies that included patients suffering from type 2 diabetes, when these patients were subjected to a higher fiber intervention, numerous improvements in a lot of parameters were observed, such as improvements in HbA1c level, a decrease in the fasting plasma glucose, and a decrease in the fasting plasma insulin. Similarly, in a second subgroup, patients who suffer from hypertension, so high blood pressure, for them, after undergoing some type of fiber intervention, not only was their blood pressure now lower, but there was also a decline in their LDL cholesterol levels, so bad cholesterol, and also a decline in triglycerides. The effects in these two specific subgroups are attributed to one specific quality of fiber that we're going to discuss this video, and not every plant source possesses these specific types of fiber. Despite all of these amazing findings, most of the Americans still fail to meet the recommendations for fiber intake. According to one of the largest nutrition surveys in the US, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, 19 out of 20 Americans do not meet the recommendation of 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calorie intake per day. Honestly, this is no surprise, since if you consider the typical Western diet, which is rich in highly processed foods, it is not very rich in complex carbs and fiber in particular. These types of products have undergone numerous processing and refining procedures so that they end up in the supermarket. On the other hand, foods that contain high amounts of fiber are usually lower in calorie density, with the exception of nuts and seeds, and they also contain other beneficial compounds for our health, such as vitamins, antioxidants, minerals, etc. The nature of the foods that are higher in fiber might also, of course, be contributing to the positive observations made in all of the research papers. Lastly, excessive fiber consumption is not really promoted, especially since can it have the opposite effect and actually lead to constipation, bloating, and a lot of gastrointestinal distress. If one aims to increase their fiber intake gradually, one would also have to take into account a higher need for water consumption so that these negative implications can be minimized. And finally, moving into the specific qualities of fiber. There are two larger groups that we can divide fiber into: soluble and insoluble fibers. Soluble fibers, as the name suggests, dissolve in water, while insoluble fibers do not. Soluble ones, most of the time, are fermentable, which means that they are being metabolized by our gut microbiome. Some of the soluble ones are also viscous, which means that they form this gel-like substance in our body. Some popular examples include inulin that I discussed in my previous video, beta-glucan, pectin, psyllium. I believe psyllium has become really popular as a supplement in the past few years. Common foods that contain some of these fibers include apples, oats, beans, lentils, etc. Generally, plant foods contain more than one type of fiber, but some fibers are present in higher concentrations in certain fruits or vegetables compared to others. Insoluble fibers, as I already mentioned, do not dissolve in water. This also means that they cannot form this gel-like substance. Most of the time, they are also non-fermentable, so they cannot be metabolized by our gut microbiome. So what are insoluble fibers then useful for? Their main function is the most popular property of fiber, which is to act as a laxative, and they bulk up our stool and promote our bowel movements. Popular examples include cellulose and lignin, and they are contained in plant products such as whole wheat flour, green beans, kale, quinoa, and different kinds of nuts and seeds. Now, for you to understand how these different fibers behave in our gastrointestinal tract, we're going to go over each property specifically, starting off with viscosity. Some soluble viscous fibers include beta-glucans and psyllium. If you have ever stumbled upon a psyllium husk supplement, you would know that it is being promoted for lowering blood cholesterol. And this is also one of the main very positive functions of soluble viscous fibers. This gel-like substance that they have formed is able to trap bile acids mechanically in your small intestine. Bile acids, if you do not know, are synthesized by your liver to digest the fat from your food, and they are made of cholesterol. This so-called trap that the fiber has created now is being excreted from your gastrointestinal tract together with the bile acids. Therefore, your liver is forced to synthesize new bile acids for the fat digestion and pull cholesterol from your blood, which lowers the blood cholesterol levels. This gel-like formation is also responsible for the next huge benefit of viscous fibers. It leads to a delayed gastric emptying. I am pretty sure that you have heard this term before if you have watched my GLP-1 video. And when gastric emptying is delayed, there is a slower release of the consumed carbohydrates into your small intestine. Therefore, the interaction between the carbs and your enzymes in the small intestine is now postponed, which leads to a more flattened insulin response compared to if the fiber was not present. Or in 2025 terms, there's not going to be a glucose spike. Because of all of this, fiber has shown consistently in research that it can help control blood sugar levels and insulin synthesis. Last but not least, if this gel-like substance is made out of non-fermentable fibers, it can also exert the main popular function of fiber and make you go and do number 2 more frequently. Now you must be under the impression that viscous fibers are very important for your health, so the question arises, where do you find them? There are a lot of sources actually that one could get viscous fibers from, but probably the most popular ones would be oats and whole wheat flour. Apart from those two, it is of course present in a lot of other plant products. As I said, each plant product is a mixture of different types of fiber, but the ratios of the fiber types are of course somewhat different. You might be wondering why I haven't said anything about the gut microbiome yet and gut health in general. And this is because the fermentability is largely responsible for regulating our gut microbiome balance. As you remember, most of the soluble fibers are fermentable and the insoluble ones are usually non-fermentable. When these soluble fibers reach your large intestine, they can be consumed, or in other words, fermented by the gut bacteria over there, which leads to the production of short-chain fatty acids. These are not simply some type of waste compounds that happen to be produced. They have been proven time and time again in scientific research to play a role in the regulation of numerous processes in our body, including GLP-1 release, insulin synthesis, immune system function, and also our metabolism. Therefore, the good health supporting effects of fiber that you have heard of is only due to this specific quality of fiber. Fermentable fibers, therefore, also lead to the growth of more beneficial strains and the decline in the populations of those that are not so good for our health. Some very common examples include inulin and pectin, and they are found in numerous plant products such as onions, garlic, apples, and beans. I highly encourage you to watch my previous video on inulin, since I mentioned it already twice in today's video. I believe it is going to change your perspective on fiber for the rest of your life. The only downside, if I can even call it a downside, is that they do not act as laxatives, since they are being metabolized in our intestine. Therefore, they do not exert any further bulking functions in our intestine, and the bowel movements remain largely unaffected. Up until now, we've been discussing mostly soluble fibers, since most of the soluble fibers are viscous and they're also fermentable. You might be asking yourself, what are we consuming insoluble fiber then for? And the answer to this question is they are the main drivers of the improve in bowel movement frequency that everybody has heard of. Insoluble fiber acts as a mechanical irritant in our large intestine. It has the so-called plastic effect. They act as particles that bulk up our stool, which induces the secretion of more water and mucus and make everything easier to pass through. Probably the most commonly consumed food right now that contains large amounts of insoluble fiber would be avocados. About 70% of the fiber found in avocados is insoluble. So if you're eating a lot of those, then good for you. I hope that you're indeed experiencing the benefits of the insoluble fiber found in it. To conclude today's topic, if you are somebody that relies on one specific fiber source, such as, let's say, the trendy chia seed water, or only oatmeal, or just avocados, this unfortunately would not lead to you experiencing all of the amazing benefits that fiber has to offer. Additionally, it is a common misconception that all fiber types lead to an improvement in the gut microbiome composition, and consuming sufficient amounts of fermentable fiber from different sources is crucial for avoiding gut dysbiosis. In the end, it comes down to the simple task of including different types of foods in your diet and not eating the same meal on rotation, although I know how attractive it can be. It might indeed complicate your life a little bit, but it is going to be worth it in the long run. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you enjoyed the contents of the video. Let me know down in the comments below if you did, and if you have any further topics that you would like me to discuss. Do not forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and check out my socials along with my website, where I have some additional resources for you and my own nutrition counseling services. Thank you again for being here with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.